now we have a Dave policy. We have to tell our delivery drivers not to relieve themselves on the neighbor's wall. Delivery is probably the most important aspect of the meal prep business that is the most commonly underappreciated for how quickly it could ruin your business and cost you an astronomical amount of money if you don't do it the right way. So in this episode, I want to make sure that we cover the basis of not only how you should be starting your delivery, but also how you should be growing your delivery and a couple of the different phases or stages that you should be expecting to experience as you scale your business. What's going on, eaters and feeders? My name is Casey, and on my channel, I discuss business tips and tricks, startup hacks, entrepreneur mindset, and so much more based on my experience starting and growing Florida's highest rated meal prep company from nothing. So if you want to learn more about production, marketing, software, leadership, sales, mindset, meditation, spirituality, philosophy, and everything in between, I invite you to subscribe and turn on those alert notifications so you don't miss out on any of my content. I produce videos weekly, I go live sporadically, and I don't want you missing out on any of it. You're also going to want to check out the show notes. I've got links that will get you to even more resources than I could put inside a YouTube video. You're also going to want to check out mealprepbiz101.com. I've got even more resources there, as well as ways for you to book one-on-one consulting with me. There's a private group just for meal prep entrepreneurs where we share ideas and questions and all sorts of different perspectives. You'll definitely want to check that out. I've got free boot camps. I got a free order tracking system. I've got free software that will run your entire business. Free ebooks, all sorts of stuff. So check out the links in the show notes and mealprepbiz101.com. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's jump into today's episode. Welcome to our channel where we go behind the scenes for meal plan company Fit Food Fresh and other local businesses across South Florida. Make sure you hit the subscribe and alerts so you never miss a video, and hit us with any questions or suggestions. I see so many meal prep businesses receiving an abundance of one-star reviews because of their delivery. And I understand why. Delivery is not the easiest thing to scale, and it's probably the thing that you think is the easiest part of the entire game, right? Like getting customers, that's got to be the hardest part, or keeping customers, that's got to be the hardest part, or making delicious food, that's got to be the hardest part. While those things are difficult, a lot of people don't anticipate how difficult scaling delivery effectively and flawlessly really is. And to be honest, you're never going to have it down perfectly, but your job is to have the foresight to plan delivery before you have to find yourself in the trenches fixing problems. Figure out a way to plan it so you're not experiencing those problems, or at least mitigating them and experiencing the fewest amount of those problems as possible. So we'll go through a few different stages of the typical meal prep business, especially from our perspective. We started with nothing. I was the first delivery driver, so you're looking at them. And for a lot of you, especially those of you who are bootstrapping this thing and starting from scratch, you will be the first delivery driver just like that. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I suggest it. Doing the deliveries yourself will actually give you some great perspectives and a lot of great experience that will help you build a good delivery team, build some good training protocols, and scale delivery with fewer headaches. You'll understand what you should be able to expect from somebody, not only from executing a delivery, but also how long it should take, how many deliveries you can do in a certain amount of time, and all sorts of other things that isn't going to be as easy for you to see if you're not in the trenches doing it yourself. Now, I've mentioned this in other videos, but I want to say it anytime I mention delivery, you should be charging for delivery. You don't have to, but I strongly suggest you do. And if you don't do it and we have a one-on-one conversation, that will be one of the first things that I tell you you made a mistake on, because charging for delivery and not charging for delivery could be the make or break for a lot of different parts of your business. And there's actually a lot of profitability to be found if you are charging delivery. And it definitely makes it a lot easier to find that profitability if you are charging for delivery. So charge for delivery. If I haven't convinced you enough, check out the other videos. I'm not going to go into too much time with it here, but trust me, please just trust me, or check out the other videos. One will probably be popping up. Charge for delivery. Now, in the beginning, we were trying to spend the least amount of money possible, so we were using free route optimization software like MapQuest. And while it does get the job done in the beginning, there are definitely some significant limitations that justify you eventually paying for some route optimization software. We'll get into that later. But in the beginning, when you've only got like a few dozen deliveries maybe, using MapQuest is just fine. You'll definitely see those limitations once you start growing, but at that point you should have enough money to easily justify putting some coin down on some paid software that will make everything a lot easier and a lot easier to automate these things, even plug it in with a CRM so you can just export and have the routes optimized with a click of a button. Now, stage 2 is when you start hiring drivers. This is going to be crucial. Now, you are going to be taking your experience as a driver and now trying to teach other people everything you've learned. I'll tell you right now, you should probably check out my ride-along videos and really do a search on my channel for anything with the word delivery or deliveries or logistics in it and watch those videos. I won't go into too much depth about all of that stuff now. I'm trying to keep this short and concise, but those videos should give you some ideas of some tips and tricks that you'll want to know yourself and stuff that you're going to want to be passing on to the people you're hiring. Hiring and training delivery drivers is essential, but it's also a headache once you get beyond a handful of people. So make sure you're very familiar and comfortable with building routes and that you also have a solid training procedure in place so that you can replicate your knowledge into as many different brains as possible, as easy as possible. There's a saying that's something to the likes of, with a name like common sense, you'd think it'd be more common. Well, unfortunately, common sense things like not putting a delivery bag directly outside of an outward swinging door, not letting a screen door or a gate slam, not calling a customer at 3 a.m. because you can't find their building number, stuff like that that seems like common sense to you and I. Unfortunately, at 3 a.m. when someone's doing a delivery drop, that might not be something that's in the front of their brain, something that they're figuring out themselves. So it does help to have a list or some kind of a training procedure that you can give them, these little tips and tricks, do's and don'ts of the business, so that they can avoid these things and just keep adding to the list when you see a new one. I've seen a bunch of crazy things happen. We always just add it to the list and it's just like, well, there we go. And then we name the policy after somebody. It's like, okay, now we have a Dave policy. We have to tell our delivery drivers not to relieve themselves on the neighbor's wall. True story, it happened. Again, check out the ride-along video. I go into some other stories. Now, stage 3, once you're big enough, this is where you're going to justify hiring a logistics manager. And you may even need to do that before you can afford to do that. And I'll get into a solution for that in a little bit. But the logistics manager ideally is going to be someone who is stationary, not doing deliveries themselves. Now, they may have been a delivery driver in the past. I would say, maybe promote your best delivery driver, someone who's really consistent, has a good mindset for solving their own problems, so they'll be able to coach other people through their problems at 3 a.m. But you want them to be stationary so they can focus on solving these problems as all these calls come in, because once you have dozens of drivers going out, you will be getting a lot of different calls, a bunch of different issues. They might be looking up another route to access a neighborhood through Google Maps because one of the guard gates closes at midnight and this guy's trying to get in at 1 a.m. They need to know to go around the backside of the neighborhood, be directed that way. They might have to look into the CRM and get some more in-depth notes that maybe didn't make it to the driver's notes. They might have to be dealing with rerouting people and, let's say someone got a flat tire and we need to call in the 2 closest drivers to split that route to make sure those deliveries are still done in time. All of that stuff is much easier to do if you have someone who's dedicated to stay up all night, take those calls, and be able to problem solve with them over the phone. Just like calling 911, that person isn't driving around in a cop car or a rescue vehicle. They're stationary somewhere looking at maps, digging into information, and able to coordinate with those people who are mobile, moving around everywhere. Now, at this stage, and actually a little bit earlier than this stage, you have the option of outsourcing your delivery. Now, I've got a ton of horror stories, and I discussed this in other videos, but I've got a ton of horror stories from our experience with courier companies. Unfortunately, a lot of courier companies don't understand the subtle nuances of the meal prep business, but I have found a company who operates nationwide and does provide the hiring, the training, the firing, the restaffing, and the logistics management, route building, and all that jazz for your business. So if you're interested in that, there will be a form below that you can fill out for more information, and I can connect you with them. Their ability to take care of you will be dependent upon how big you are, basically how many deliveries you're doing and where you are located. But fill out that form and I will figure out what the best solution is for you if I can, and help you outsource without having to burn your brand rolling the dice with some strangers that you're hiring off of Craigslist, or some courier companies who are promising the world but probably not the best suited for taking on this different business model. While it is subtly different, there are some very minute details that will completely change the game for them. And I go into this in other videos, so I won't go into it in length here, but just understand the fact that if delivery isn't done right, I always refer to it as the last yard. If you run all of your plays flawlessly, your quarterback is throwing like a laser, everyone's catching, everyone's doing all of their job, and we get to that last yard and you give the ball to the weakest guy on the team and he doesn't get it into the end zone, all the other perfection, all the other food sourcing, the skill that went into your food, the money that went into your advertising, the money that went into paying salespeople to get these clients, to sign them up, all of that is for nothing. And you lose all of that and potentially lose that client permanently. Not to scare you guys, but I do want you guys to understand that you cannot overlook how important delivery is. It might seem easy when you're dealing with a dozen deliveries or a couple dozen deliveries, but once you get into hundreds of deliveries, it becomes detrimental that you get things right. If you have one flat tire and you've got, let's say, 5 delivery drivers who have gone north, south, east, and west, and you've got to coordinate getting all of these guys to finish their routes, and then coordinate somehow getting the bags that haven't been delivered from the flat tire, get them back out. Like, it's a mess, and it's happened plenty of times. There's things that you cannot prevent, and it's great to have somebody in your corner through either a solid logistics manager or a solid company like the one I'm going to connect you with, who's been there before, they've seen it, they've got contingencies in place, they know how to roll with it. It is a lifesaver, and especially when these deliveries are being done overnight, it allows you to sleep and focus on making food and providing amazing customer service, which is really the name of the game, right? Again, I invite you to check out my other videos. I invite you to check out the links below. Definitely check out the link below if you're interested in the delivery information, but also the boot camps, the private groups, the one-on-one consulting, the software, all that other jazz. Links below, mealprepbiz101.com, and make sure that you've subscribed and you've got those alert notifications on. Until the next episode, I look forward to helping you grow as a business, as an entrepreneur, and as an individual.